So aging isn't something to fear. It's actually something to master because it's not just about adding years to your life. It's about adding life to your years. So today we are diving into what it really means to age well and age with power. So, Helen Stearns is back to break down the pillars of health and longevity, the habits, choices, and inner shift that help us feel alive, not just alive ish. So, get ready for a really strong women's conversation about empowering women to feel their best. A quick shout out to Dr. Bradley Nelson, iHeartRadio, for your sponsorship, and to our audience and our fans. Please do not forget to like and subscribe. Helen, it's really great to see you again. What does aging well mean to you?
Lisa, it's always good to talk to you. I love our conversations.
Me
Aging
too.
well to me means that our health span equals our lifespan, right?
Mm,
I mean, if you are going to live to 100, but you can't do the things you want to do, and your mind and your memory are not intact, and you're not living independently, do you really want to live to 100? But if you can live to 100 and you're vibrantly independent, doing what you love, knowing the people who are in your life and still having fun, I mean, that to me sounds like aging, true aging and longevity. Yeah. So this is my mission, to teach women this specifically, but really it applies to all humans. What can we do to build these pillars of aging? Um, Healthily into our lives.
yeah, I saw this woman on TikTok. She's in her 70s and she calls herself a goddess. And she gets up every day. She does her hair and her makeup. She wears these cat suits and these like really tight, beautiful dresses that are made of this like beautiful material. And she's all about empowering women to like be like that for their whole entire lives. And it's so inspiring. I love her so much. I don't know. I've always been taught that when we age, we decline. Our quality of life declines. I saw my grandma, like both my grandmothers, kind of go downhill the older they got, and I think a lot of us fear aging, and especially us women who are taught to be beautiful, and that beauty is being young. Why do you think so many women fear aging instead of seeing it as a new phase of power?
Yeah, I think it's exactly what you were saying is we have seen such a different picture than vibrant aging, right? And this is not that this was this generation's fault. They did not have the tools or the knowledge. Culturally, it was very, very different. But now we have different tools. We have hormone therapy. We have so much knowledge about what healthy aging needs, right? To protect our bones, protect our brain, to protect our heart. And so we fear aging if we don't understand it. And I
Mhm.
cannot tell you how many clients that I see or do a video call with or whatever. I'll ask them specific questions that we healthcare providers always ask, like, are you having cognitive changes? Are you having this change or this change? And so often I hear someone in their 50s or 60s, oh yeah, I'm like not remembering things, but I think that's just normal aging. To any question I ask, and I just want to like say, no, this is not normal aging. And sometimes I just have to move the visit along before I can like come back to that. But it's just so crucial that we continue to understand that what's common is not normal. This, as you probably know by now, is one of my mantras because we just think what we see commonly around us is normal, but that doesn't mean it's our normal or optimal state of thriving. And it doesn't mean it's inevitable. And like what you were saying on a kind of different level is like just this morning, I also saw a reel from this 72-year-old woman. Her name's Ginny. I just love her. I think she's just a queen. But she actually has won the Ninja Warrior race, which is insanely difficult to do in her age division. She did not start working out till she was like in her 60s, and now she is so strong. She has completely reversed her osteopenia. She has lowered her she had like some plaque in her arteries by like 30%. She is just like this paragon of just like strength and agility. She's just like swinging around on things like crazy. But one thing she brought up is that um, she took a stepwise approach, right? Which means that like you don't need to change everything overnight, and most of us can't do that. But it's the daily habits that we're building into our life that end up with huge results decades later.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to ask you about the key pillars of healthy aging, but before I do, I just want to say, I know for me, like mentally and with my confidence and like as a woman, I'm in my 40s and I feel like I'm the most secure as I have ever been. So a
Mhm.
dream would be to have like the aging body and the mind kind of synchronized together and have like both equally as strong. I almost feel like women are more powerful when they get into their 40s and 50s and beyond.
100%. This is just something I just want to preach from the shout from the rooftops all the time. We have such an incredible amount of power as we age because we are coming more into our own. We have not only the years, but we have the wisdom and experience that come with those years, right? And there's no reason that we need to decline as we age. I intend on building those habits into my own life that are going to withstand me over the next 4 or 5 decades. Like I'm excited, right, to see how I age. But this doesn't just happen by wishing for it, right? This is something I really want to stress to our listeners is that it may sound intimidating because there is a lot to do to keep yourself healthy, but the price of not doing it is so much harder. But just set micro goals for yourself. But don't just randomly set goals. This is where really like knowing your resources, hiring a coach if you're able to. If you're not, there's plenty of very high value free resources out there for you to develop a plan for yourself that is structured, that is science based, and that's most importantly going to yield you good results.
So, what are these key pillars of healthy aging that you focus on in your practice?
Yeah, 100%. So I actually took a lot of my work, or the way I practice from one of the leading menopause practitioners, at least I consider her to be, and someone I very much look up to, Dr. Vonda Wright. I've mentioned her several times on this podcast series, because it's worth it to read her literature and resources, to listen to her, to follow her. She's it's like, why reinvent the wheel, right? She is an orthopedic, board certified orthopedic surgeon who now specializes in midlife women's care. And the 4 pillars of healthy aging she lays out, the first one is going to be exercise, right? Sounds cliche. We're all like sighing inside. Oh, do we have to? But honestly, exercise is very life-giving, right? If you're in a bad mood, go outside, go for a quick walk and see how your mood changes, right? Look at the things around you, the trees and the leaves and the beauty, and you'll just find your mood changing. So it's not that we have to exercise, but we get to. And if we can start to change our mindset, especially as women, from exercising to want to be skinny, right? Or have a certain body shape, to instead exercising to not only be strong, but to really in our mind have this clear vision of who we want to be. And then knowing that every single thing we're doing is working towards that vision of who we want to be. And that in and of itself makes exercise, well, maybe not always a delight because it's going to be hard work, but it makes it so worthwhile.
Yeah. What kind of exercise actually supports longevity and hormone balance? Because when I hear the word exercise, I'm exhausted just thinking about it.
Yeah, and it will the paradox of that, Lisa, is that the more you exercise, the actual more energy you will have. And
Mm.
it is the first hurdle is just getting into the gym, or like in my case, I just work out in my garage, right? I don't have to go far. Whatever makes it easy and accessible for you. But to answer your question, 100%. First and foremost, we need the strength training as women. We need to be lifting heavy and we need to be putting that resistance on our bones and we need to be eating enough protein to maintain that muscle mass. And so this is just a non-negotiable. We need the impact exercises and the heavy weights. Yes, we also need cardio. We cannot ignore that. You don't need to go hot and heavy every day. You don't want to stress your body out too much, but you want that zone two cardio that works your heart up enough. And then you do want to incorporate 20 minutes or so a week, maybe twice a week of sprint training where you're just getting your heart rate way up, bringing it down way up. And honestly, you don't have to go crazy. 20 minutes makes a big difference. This is, science. Um, you also really want to work on mobility so you don't injure yourself when you're strength training. If you're having trouble with strength training, I remember you talking about, you had some joint issues or something that made it difficult. There's such things as like slow strength training where you're really warming up first of all, making sure that your form is perfect before you try to lift heavy. But also, there are practitioners out there that really do slow strength training to avoid any injury even more. Um, but mobility, balance, you really want to make sure you're incorporating that kind of exercise to help prevent falls in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So we talked about exercise as one of the pillars. I'm assuming nutrition is another one that you
Yeah.
teach.
Yeah. Nutrition, of course, right, has to be the second pillar.
I'll
And
start, I'll start,
nutrition,
I'll start, I'll lead with this. 2 days ago, after or Friday night, I went to a singles night and I bought a tub of ice cream after. And
mm,
I told myself I was going to have half a cup of it. I ended up eating half of it. And the next day, I felt like absolute garbage. It was like I had a hangover and I was depressed and I felt crappy. And my body's not used to that. And so, having balance is fine. And I'm not saying eating that stuff is terrible for you, but if people eat stuff, I was thinking to myself, if people are eating processed foods and sugar like this every single day and their body's just used to that, like it's no wonder they feel like crap.
absolutely, because it's feeding the inflammatory cycles in our body, which we just don't feel good when we're inflamed. And I love that you said that about the ice cream because it's something that we as women, as we age, we become less tolerant to food and alcohol, right? And some people may consider this sort of a curse. I actually think it's a blessing because it's teaching you what your body needs. And we just can't tolerate, just like we don't tolerate bullshit as much as we used to. We can't tolerate
That's
the
a fact.
the processed foods and the alcohol, and that's our body talking to us. And I think it's a huge gift, right? Because let's just take alcohol. I think this actually needs more attention, and maybe it's not something people want to hear, but alcohol is a carcinogenic
Hmm.
substance. 100% is. And it is toxic. And there is big, big money behind the label, right? That people who make alcohol do not want it classified as the same as like cigarettes. So there's a lot of money going into lobbying. And doctors really, if you notice that we will say, well, you should quit smoking. And then when we move on to alcohol, we're like, well, you should limit it to one or two drinks a day instead of saying you should quit drinking alcohol. And I'm not completely sober. Like I have a little bit, here and there. But I have moved more and more to decreasing my alcohol intake after one, cerebrally knowing that it's doing me no good, but also it interacts with how I feel, right? The nights where I have alcohol, it rebounds on me. I don't sleep well. And that's a very, very understood process in the world of science. Like we just know you're not going to have a good night of sleep if you drink alcohol before bedtime. Um, and so it's really following the principles of unprocessed foods as much as possible, adequate hydration, right? Um, Getting your omega-3s in that are going to decrease inflammation, protect your cells, protect your mitochondria, protect your brain. This is very, very well studied. and really trying for a huge variety of plant products. I'm really big onto this because the data is very strong on this as well, that you really need the plant products, you need the fiber to maintain a very healthy gut, which then talks to your brain, your bones, your muscles, everything. Yeah, so those are the fundamentals, right? And we could go on for a couple hours talking about diet, but that's the fundamental.
Yeah. What about sleep? How important is sleep and recovery in this picture?
Sleep is it's the foundation for everything. It's the number one thing I talk to my patients about, right? We talk on their first visit. We're like, what are your priorities? Almost always for my perimenopausal women, it's going to be I can't sleep anymore. Or I wake up every night at 2 in the morning and can't go back to sleep. So hormones are huge, huge key players in this, but also it's what we're eating, what we're drinking, how we're managing stress. So sleep is one of the first things we focus on. So we talk about supplements, we talk about good sleep hygiene, really, really focus on sleep because if we don't sleep, then we can't exercise because we're too fatigued. If we can't sleep, then we're anxious and irritable and we hate everybody. And right, it just impacts everything. And then we're also going to reach for that tub of ice cream, which, like you said, is not in and of itself bad. We just don't want to make it a consistent daily part of our diet, right?
Yeah, it's all about balance and but I do find that when I eat stuff like that and when I don't have good sleep, yeah, you feel almost the body goes into such a depression. You wake up in the middle of the night and you feel like crap.
Mhm.
It's really tough on the body. And as you get older, you notice it more and more and more, and it takes a longer time to bounce back from it. So if I
Yes,
have
I was just
two
going to say that.
drinks, yeah, if I have two drinks, it literally would take me 3 to 5 days to bounce back from. So I literally haven't touched alcohol, and it's been since April of this year, actually. I just said I can't do it anymore. My
Yeah.
body was just like vibrating after, and it was the worst.
And how are you feeling? Have you noticed a difference since stopping?
Um, Yeah, I just don't think about it anymore, but it was almost like I want to go down the spiritual realm a little bit. It was like my soul would leave my body. And then when I would get sober in the morning, my soul would be back in my body, but it wouldn't feel like it belonged there. And so it's like I didn't want to be with myself. Like it affected me in such a negative way. It like turned me into this evil person too. Like it just like when you drink, it affects your liver, and your liver, if we're talking spiritually, is where your anger sits. And so alcohol is being processed through the liver, which then activates all of those memories that we store in our liver that make us mad. And that's where you see like people freaking out when they're drinking alcohol. And the older we get, the more sensitive we are to it.
Well, and also your liver, even the spiritual side, putting to the side, your liver is where we process so many things and metabolize so many things. So when the alcohol takes the place of what we're supposed to be metabolizing, everything kind of gets on hold. And it really does take our body a long time to recover. So if you think that you are putting alcohol in your body every single day, think about what the nutrients you're missing out on and how hard your body is working to then process everything. So it really is. I mean, it's something that maybe people are going to be turned off by this message, but I think that we wouldn't be doing our job if we weren't really highlighting this. And it's not that you can't go out and have a nice glass of wine or have a craft beer. Like that's something, my partner and I we love to do. We love to taste test and we'll order little tasters and stuff. And it can be a really fun part of life, but it's not something that's really going to nourish your body or do really a bit of good in your body.
Yeah. And I mean, I want to stress that I am super sensitive. And so there is a lot of people out there that can have a glass of wine every day and it doesn't affect them. And there are people out there like that. But so what about our energy? So, how do we protect our energy and our nervous system in a world that is constantly on? And especially as women, we are expected to be everything to everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not a therapist. or a counselor, but I do find myself doing this in my job is, talking to women, right? Being a middle-aged woman and a mom and a partner, and running my own practice and having a side job, right? It's a lot. And we carry a lot. And even, even if you have the most wonderful partner in the world, which I have a wonderful partner, he's very supportive, he's a great dad as well. I think women still carry a lot the mental load, right? Um, but really communicating with your partner or whoever is in your life and mostly to yourself, like what are your needs? Knowing your needs. Like for me, it's time alone every day, right? Away from the little one. Not like just it doesn't have to be long, but I need a little bit of time at night to wind down, read my book, relax my body. I love my time in the morning, but also protecting yourself from toxic people and relationships, knowing your boundaries and really knowing yourself, knowing what you need. And what we all need is really not so different from each other. We need to make sure that we're not inundating our poor selves from horrible news, stressful news all day long, every day. We were not designed to intake bad news on an hourly and daily basis. So, limiting your screen time, right? These are just back to the basics, getting a little bit of sunlight in, getting lots of movement in, getting up and moving throughout the day. I think I've shared on this show multiple times, like taking your lunch break was huge for me, not trying to just soldier through and work through. You're not a superhuman being. We are women and we are powerful, but we're not meant to be machines and we need to take care of ourselves. So it's prioritizing these things and they're not hugely complicated. It's movement, it's light, it's sunlight, it's being real with people, it's surrounding yourself with people that you love, that support you and bring you joy.
Yeah, you sure can feel a difference when you're around people that light you up compared to people who don't.
Yep. Yep. Very, very true. Yeah.
Yeah. So, another thing, like aging, how do we age well and still keep our sexuality?
Yeah, so sexuality is something that really changes throughout our lifespan or can change if we're not guarding that as well, right? We're very sensual beings, and whatever that means for each of us is different. Some people are sensual beings without a partner, and they're exploring different art avenues or whatever brings you pleasure. It doesn't have to necessarily be sexual, but it can be sensual in the way that you're incorporating your senses. As far as sexuality, right? It's what is important to you and nurturing that and knowing if there's a block. And that block can be something in the form of pain, sexual pain. I deal with a lot in my practice. This is due to hormones or pelvic floor, um, what's the word I'm looking for?
Pelvic floor
Pelvic floor
exercises?
dysfunction, yeah. Muscles loose, muscles too tight in different places, hips that are not, aligned straight. And so sending someone to get that therapy done. Sometimes it's emotional therapy. Your partner and you are going through different things. Me and my partner have a 3.5-year-old that sleeps with us. You can guess how much that impacts our intimate life, right? Learning to work around that and communicate our needs and desires. And hormones have a big amount to do with this as well. If you are a listener going through midlife and you're struggling with libido changes or pain, there is hope and there's plenty of things that we can do to help you with that. So definitely don't hesitate to reach out, message me on my website, or I've got my contact information there because there's a lot that can be done. It can be low testosterone. Many women are very low in testosterone or high in SHBG, which can bind the testosterone. Could be, estrogen, progesterone is also a very comforting hormone. Oxytocin can be helpful. There's other forms as well of things that are non-hormonal that can really play a very active role in helping you get back to yourself. So yeah, great question though.
I was just going to ask if there's any supplements, routines, or longevity hacks that you personally love and recommend.
For sexuality or just overall in general?
I think overall in general. just for that longevity. I mean, you can go both ways.
Yeah. So these are a little bit controversial, but honestly, I've been prescribing them starting years ago. There are a couple non-hormonal libido medications. One is called Addyi. It's also called the little pink pill. And this has been shown in many women to increase libido. And then there's also another injection called Vyleesi. Definitely, you can look those up or message me if you have any questions about those. Those are non-hormonal medications. Sometimes oxytocin you can take like sublingually, and that's like your feel-good, very loving hormone. Um, and then as far as just like longevity hacks or whatever, I'm not sure I love that word, but it's really it's following the basic principles, right? And if you're taking a whole handful of supplements, but you're not monitoring your mindset or you're not monitoring what you put into your diet or you're not moving your body, those supplements really aren't going to be very protective or do a lot of good. So don't fall for those traps of just buying a ton of supplements. With that said, there are some supplements that I have curated for my clients that I do recommend. Magnesium is going to be very important for a calming hormone. It helps protect your brain. Very, very helpful for sleep for many women. I also like a good multivitamin just to fill in the gaps. I love omega 3s, vitamin D, vitamin K2 to tell your calcium where to go to help keep your bones strong. Calcium, of course, if you're a woman. Those are my basics, really, and fiber. But they're just really, we need to get back to the basics, right? Even if you don't want to take supplements, there's things that you can really do in your diet to making sure you're getting as high quality vitamins and minerals as you can. Um, and then I would say, like, we haven't talked about, like, really one of the last pillar that I wanted to talk about is mindset. How you view aging is really important, and how we view aging has been linked to actually how long we live. You can extend your life by several years if you have a positive mindset about aging and maintaining your social connections, doing things you love, doing things for others. That can extend your life by years. It's just such a beautiful thing. We hold so much power in our hands and in our relationships, right? To support and lift each other up and really extend each other's lives. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, mindset's huge. Especially, I mean, aging comes with so many transitions. There's career changes, empty nesting, the kids leave. We deal with loss, reinvention. Um, as we change, it's so incredibly hard to keep your power. How do you how do you hold on to your power without losing it in those really scary transitions that we go through, especially as we age?
Hmm. I I think it's really, again, it's coming back to knowing yourself, being in tune to yourself, right? Holding on to our power, that's a complicated question, really. For each woman, it's going to look a little bit different, right? Does it
Yeah.
mean in the job place? Does it mean at home? Does it mean both of those places, right? And knowing your worth. And I just had an interesting conversation with a friend who just went through a painful breakup, and she just said, I felt like I was always having to prove my worth, and I shouldn't have to do that. And right, like just knowing that you are worthy. And that's knowing you're worthy, not to be like, again, I'm not a therapist, but knowing you're worthy comes with just knowing your power. If you
Mm.
believe that you are worthy, you're going to then take care of yourself and you're going to do it for yourself. And that's just a beautiful and powerful thing as well.
Yeah, I think learning to love ourselves wholly and like truly love ourselves as human beings without guilt, shame, like radical self-love is so important. To feel whole when the when the world rattles our cage. So, for example, when I left my ex, I'm okay on my own. I'm independent and I have what I need. I didn't need to rely on him to support me because I was doing it for myself. So I mean there was no kids involved and I know like a lot of women have children involved and I'm not saying it was easy, but I'm saying it really helped that I believed in myself and
Yeah.
that I spent time with myself and I had other things in my life. I think problem as women is we put all of our eggs in one basket. We give too much of ourselves to these situations that don't fully fulfill us. And then when they leave, it's like then we have a void to fill, and that can be really hard. So I think it's important to have all that balance, like we talked about in previous episodes, like community and doing the things for ourselves and not just for everybody else.
Yeah. And then because I am a perimenopause specialist, right? Like this is what I teach women, is if you are starting to feel like this new anxiety or you're starting to feel not like yourself, which is a common complaint, like I don't know who I am anymore. I don't feel like myself anymore. If you're starting to have this new anxiety, like this is a time to do not only like some self-awareness checks, but this is a very, very clear and common sign in many women that you are going through perimenopause. So this is very much an opportunity for us to, and for our listeners, like if you are starting to have new anxiety, new panic attacks, if you're feeling like so insecure all of a sudden, right? This can be your hormones talking, right? Because our hormones are so interconnected to our brain receptors and our mood receptors. So don't ignore these things, and don't keep struggling through them either, thinking that like there's no hope or this is how life is going to be, right? This is a call to action here to really talk to someone who knows what they're doing with hormone balancing, because often our mood symptoms are one of the first things that start to change in midlife.
Yeah, I've heard women just feel disconnected from themselves and can make really rash decisions.
Yeah.
But then when they
Yeah.
get on hormone therapy, suddenly like they don't feel that way anymore. Is that common?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Right. You can make a lot of decisions from a place of fear or insecurity or anxiety, and really it's your hormones talking. And yeah, it can be a time of real fear and confusion. And my heart really goes out to midlife women, which is why I've dedicated my life and career to this, right? Because it is a time of confusion, and I feel so sad and angry when I hear so many women just go for years suffering and they're like, Helen, nobody's ever told me this. I wish I had known this years ago. So yeah, yeah, it's better to pay attention to these symptoms and get help, when you notice them.
Yeah. So Helen, tell everybody more about where they can find you and the work that you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a midlife and menopause specialist, which means that I primarily treat midlife women. But really, if you're not a midlife woman and you think you're suffering with hormonal imbalances like POS, PCOS, PMDD, I'm here as well. I'm a hormone specialist. I also specialize in weight loss and non-hormonal lifestyle management strategies. And right now, I practice in California. I'm licensed for California. So if you are in the state of California, I can definitely help you. And you can find me all over socials. You can find me on my website. I try to keep my handles all pretty easy. Helen Stearns, DNP, as in Doctor of Nursing Practice. And yeah, please message me. You can book a free inquiry call. Absolutely happy to talk to you about your symptoms, what you might be going through, how I think I could help you. And if you just need some resources, if you're not in California, I'm happy to talk to you as well.
Amazing. Thanks so much for being here and for talking about living long, fulfilling lives. Do you have any last minute thoughts on the topic?
No, you threw me a few curveballs, but I should expect that from you by now. No, it's great. I think, as women, we are more than just our bodies. We are our souls, and we are just so intricately woven together that I think it's good to ask and answer these questions.
Yeah, and I think it's important to just not expect ourselves to be a certain way. So what I mean by that is like we put so much pressure on ourselves to be the best mom and the best wife and the best daughter and
Mhm. Yep.
um
Yep.
independent and all these things and to really just be a human being and not attached to being anything but ourselves and listening to our bodies and not putting so much pressure on ourselves in a society that puts so much pressure on us.
100%. 100%. I love that. That's,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Amazing. I look forward to the next episode and thanks again for being here.
You're welcome. Thanks, Lisa.
And to our audience, please do not forget to like and subscribe and do not suffer if you're going through anything hormonal, anything to do with your mind, a lot of anxiety. Don't suffer. Let's age gracefully and let's live long, healthy, fulfilling, exciting lives. Until next time, take care, everybody.